Okay. Um, all right. Good evening again. I'm Angel St. Jean. I'm the CEO of the Black Brain Trust. We created a scoring tool and software platform that enables individual and corporate citizens to take data-driven actions that create a more equitable companies, that create a more equitable society. I came up with the idea for this after a company I used to work for tried to fire me for raising issues about how Black people were treated in the company. This is while we were going through a diversity, equity, and inclusion training. I learned two things from that experience. One is that companies can be taking actions believing it's helping them to become more equitable when it's really not. And two, if my CEO could get an award for his courageous equity work while I was searching for a lawyer to protect me from retaliation, there clearly was no standard for equity. I believe that CEO and other business leaders know that they have a role to play in creating an equitable world. Whether it's because they want to make a difference or because they understand the shifts in consumer, worker, and investor preferences, these leaders understand that being equitable is more than just a nice thing to be. It's an economic imperative and a critical problem they need to solve. They just haven't figured out how to do it because they have blind spots when it comes to equity. We talked to leaders of multinational corporations to 7-person operations, and we heard the same things. Companies track KPIs for every goal that matters to their bottom line, except for equity. We believe that we can create a more equitable world the same way companies achieve every other goal that they have, by being intentional. We have to solve for equity. Our solution is the Equity in Action Score. We all know that you can't improve what you don't measure. So the EIA score does a simple thing that isn't being done at scale in the field of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It creates a clear bar that all companies can aim to reach. Our score is industry specific and based on over 100 metrics and critical feedback from Black workers and consumers. In addition to the score, you get a report that helps companies understand exactly where they're falling short and exactly where they need to direct their investments in order to get better. Of course, there are other products on the market. What's different about us is that we're not focused on helping companies understand how to measure their social impact or how to measure diversity. We're focused on equity. Equity requires diversity, inclusion, and good governance, but those alone have not and cannot create the equitable world that we're all seeking. All the products that we saw on the market do one of two things. They either focus on improving the experience of workers inside companies or for the people who are trying to get in. We understand that companies have a bigger footprint than that. The Equity in Action Score is for companies who are truly committed to going deep and really understanding how to identify the inequities in their internal practices, as well as the impact that their companies have on equity in the world. In addition to the score, companies can purchase a detailed report and access our web-based software platform. With these tools, company leaders can track key data inputs from staff across their companies, as well as to track their performance at any point and year over year on their equity targets. Our customer is established employers with 10 workers or more in the 6 industries that we're building scores for in 2021. Our first industry score is going to be focused on financial institutions, specifically banks, credit unions, and community development financial institutions. These companies are not only required to invest in underserved, mostly Black communities, but there's also a multiplier effect when you have a more equitable bank. That will increase equity in home ownership, business development, as well as employment and wages. We have 3 strategies to get our products in the hands of company leaders. The primary strategy will be to work through industry associations where we can minimize our overall customer acquisition cost, as well as to introduce our products to multiple companies at one time. Right now, we're focused on securing a known brand as our first beta tester so we can raise awareness of our product as well as confidence in its effectiveness. If we can secure just 24 customers in the next 2 years, we'll earn over $1 million in revenue. So we've established a 1 customer per month goal as our conservative starting point. Our main objective over the next year is customer acquisition as quickly as possible. So we plan to, in the next quarter, patent and beta test our first industry score and use those results in presentations to companies and to bring on a staff so that we can build out the rest of our industry scores and launch our research agenda. Companies have been investing in diversity, equity, and inclusion for a while. However, between COVID and race-based uprisings, there's a new sense of urgency around addressing racial inequities. We want to get our product out while companies are hyper-focused on this issue. We're right now seeking grants, notes, in-kind resources to help us achieve our goals over the next year. We're also seeking to build a board of advisors. So if anybody is interested or they know about any resources that we can benefit from, please see us in our virtual booth at the end of tonight's session. A little bit about us. My co-founder and CTO is Rob Drayton. He is an enterprise architect and a developer. He's been coding for 16 years, but he hasn't worked a day in his life because he just loves what he does. I'm an applied researcher. I've spent my entire career working to improve outcomes for Black people. I was on a PhD track when I decided to work in the field that I wanted to study. I think that was the best move that I could have made in my career because it allowed me to put those research practices to use in real world scenarios. And I also learned how to use data to improve outcomes for real human beings. Equity work really found us once we understood the inextricable link between addressing scale and the inequities that are structural in our society that are leading to and that are the core causes of disparate outcomes for Black people. At the end of the day, we want companies to stop making statements in support of Black lives and to put their actions where their heart is. The more equitable companies we have, the more equitable our world will be. The Black Brain Trust is helping companies to put their commitments to equity in action, and that includes all of you. Invest in what will make a difference instead of a headline. Change your company and change the world. Thank you.
Wow. Wow, that was good. Thank you so much, Angel. Whew. I'm going to make a comment after everyone's done, but all I can say is great job. Well done. Omari Bakari, can we see you? Are you going to be able